Hello, my name is Frilly, and I just had my worst breakup ever. So, earlier in 2019, I got the opportunity to go study in Europe for 1 semester. And when I went there, I was alone and I didn't have any friends. I came from sunny Indonesia to gray, cold, snowy Europe, so it added up to the loneliness that I already felt from the very beginning. I went to class alone and walked back to my dorm alone every day. I ate alone, and all that just added up to the amount of loneliness that I felt at the time. So at one point, I decided that I will start going out and I will try to see people. So I started to go on online dating, meeting people from dating apps. And I've met several guys from the apps. And it was okay, but I never had really like a good connection with any of them. So the thing about online dating is that the loneliness that you feel does not necessarily decrease as the amount of time of dates increase as well. Sometimes the emptiness is actually more profound, especially after dates. You started to ask questions to yourself whether you actually had a good time, or was it only because of the loneliness was so prominent that even the slightest human or romantic interaction that you had with someone equals to the fun or the good time that you had. And you are beginning to question whether it is really a genuine feeling or just the loneliness and the emptiness. So, but it all changes when I met my ex. It was a cold, windy day in April. I met him in front of the statue. Black leather jacket, green ocean eyes, and we hugged. We talked about how funny it was that I was actually late and how stereotypical of an Indonesian it was for me to be late. And with that laughter, I fell in love. So when I finally met him and I made this amazing connection, everything changed. The cold, gray, lonely Europe has turned into this amazing, sunny, beautiful, with flowers Europe. And I really enjoyed my time there because of him. We made a strong bond by talking about things that we both are interested in, such as politics, economics. Since we were both students, so we had several, study sessions in the library or in his apartment, and it was a very good bonding time. We had a lot of discussions. We had a lot of stories that we shared, and discovering those shared interests was a really great time for me, and I think for him as well. We started watching Netflix shows, We started traveling, walk on parks on the weekend. He helped me with language, and I helped him to some extent with his studies as well. And in the beginning, it seems like it was a perfect relationship, you know? I suddenly have this friend that I can talk to. He told me that he was lonely in the beginning as well. So me meeting him and him meeting me was just a perfect match. At least that's what we thought in the beginning. Although at that point I realized that the relationship has turned into an unhealthy one, I was not strong enough to try to find a way to leave the relationship. The thing is, after a period of gaslighting and guilt trips and body shaming at some point as well, you started to internalize all those comments, all those events, and all the things that he said to me. So it really damaged my self-esteem, my self-confidence, and how I see myself. And it left me feeling weak, and to some degree, I feel like I was dependent on his validation of what kind of person I am. So further on in the relationship, I had to come back home to Indonesia. And the first thought that I had when I was about to leave Europe, I was sad that I was going to leave this person who had a very strong connection with me. But also I was a little bit relieved that I was ready to start a new page. So when I finally arrived in Indonesia, my ex-boyfriend told me that he was going to visit me in Indonesia a week later. So he came back. We met again. And we decided that we were going to continue with the relationship. And in hindsight, I'm not sure whether it was a good decision, but we did continue the relationship. And starting at that point, everything was getting worse. The guilt trips and the blamings and the body shaming as well. And I feel like I had to fulfill a certain standard of a person that I should be to earn his validation, to make him feel like that, and to make me feel like that I am indeed valued as his partner. So even though we had all these things that could be an indicator that the relationship couldn't survive and was not a good relationship at all, we still planned to actually make it a long-term relationship, in which that I was planning to go back to Europe with him. He had to leave before I was able to actually go back to Europe, because I had to deal with the visa application and all that stuff. And even then, that I was not able to come back with him yet at that point. So when he went back to Europe and I had to stay in Indonesia to wait for my visa application, with the distance that we had between us, the dynamics of the relationship has gotten worse as well. He started blaming me for the things that I don't have any control of. For example, his bad grades, and how that the fact that the visa application took much longer than we expected was somehow my fault. And as much as I wanted to leave the relationship at that point, I still couldn't. Until I found out that for another reason or two, I had to cancel my departure to Europe. As sad as I was about giving up on my dreams of continuing my study in Europe and of living and continuing my relationship with him, in hindsight, I am actually relieved. Because now I realize that if I were to leave for Europe and if I were to continue with the relationship, I don't think I would have the strength to actually leave the relationship, to actually stand up for myself and to say no to the emotional abuse. So my failure was actually a blessing in disguise. But it took a while for me to understand that. When I learned the first time that I was not going to be able to go to Europe, I was devastated. I was very sad, and the fact that I had to cancel the trip was also blamed on me as well by him. I think I was crying for the whole week. I did not or couldn't really bring out myself to socialize with people. I spent my days blaming myself, going over things that I should have done better, I could have done. And also blaming myself for the loneliness and the struggle that my ex-boyfriend had to go through now that I wouldn't be able to be with him. At one point, I felt like that life was not something that I was excited for, that I was completely broken on the inside, now that my self-esteem and my self-confidence were already damaged, and now that I had to deal with the failure of giving up on my dreams. But at certain point, I decided that I had to move on, that there are so much more to life than I believed there was. And that was when I met Satu Persen for the first time. I think I watched the first video from Satu Persen, and it was about self-discovery, and it really hits home because after being stripped away of my identity from all the gaslighting and all the blamings, I need to find myself. I need to discover myself. And I'm very happy to say that I am now on the journey of self-discovery with the help of Satu Persen and the online mentorship that Satu Persen has. And I can say that I'm in a better place now, in a place where I am actually excited for life, and I'm actually looking forward to things that will come. And yeah, so I'm trying to improve and trying to find myself 1% at a time.